Hello everybody, welcome back to the Bison Workshop. I'm Bob, and today we're going to show the progress on the wood splitter build or rebuild, or however you want to put it. Hope you're having your Trump coffee today. I'll set mine down and show you what I've got going on. I had to build a new ram. I would like for this to have been a little wider, but I don't have anything wide enough, and if I make that wide enough, or wide-ish, it's going to be too low. So I need it up there like that. So this here piece of steel had this on this side, and I cut it off the bandsaw to make it square to set down on the waves. So these two pieces here, I had a piece of strap that I cut off of something else, and they happen to be identical. So I got one on this side and one on this side. And we'll bring you down here and show you. So I've got a 1-inch piece of steel plate. Let me get a tape measure that measures, and that's the only piece I had, 8.5 by 6 inches. It hangs off about 1 3/8 inches on each side. So then this piece here came out of the old ram. I took it over to my buddy's house and had him torch all the rest of the metal off of it, and I've got it all laying down here on the floor somewhere or out in the pile. And we wanted to save this piece right here since it's already got the whole board in it and it's already where I need it to be. So I've already tested it with the cylinder up there and the clevis on there, and we're going to make that, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. So then I made this, and I'm using this as a shim. I'm going to make a shim, but I'm going to make it out of aluminum, a real thin sheet of aluminum. This is the plate that keeps it side to side movement, which I need to make a little bit longer, so I need to cut another set of these. Because I kind of want all these edges to line up on the sides. And then this is the bottom plate, and because this H-beam is kind of tapered on this surface here and this surface here, I hope I have you guys in frame there. And so I tapered it right there, so when it goes up against there, against this, it'll still slide. So now that I've put that taper in it, I might not need the shim, but we're going to find out. So I'm going to clamp that back up there and see if we can still move it all the way to the wedge. So let's try that out. Yeah, buddy. So we don't even need a shim. And this is all the gap that we have right there. So I might just leave it that way. I might take and chamfer this edge right here, this little corner, so that if it kind of cocks sideways like that, it don't catch. This might be okay. So then I made my stand for my pump or my valve, and I still got to drill a hole in the bottom here and put a bolt and a nut here, and I got a stainless steel bolt and a nut here. And so now we're making the clevis on the lathe. I've got to let it cool down. It's too hot to do any more machining right now. So I've got the pump rebuilt, or not rebuilt, but repainted, and it's ready to go in. The carburetors that I got for it, these here are not threaded 1/4-20. The old carburetor is. So I'm either going to have to thread this for 1/4 or go get 6mm by 1.0 thread bolts to put in it, which would probably be better because I don't really like the idea of threading that, simply because it's too close to that edge there, and you'd have to have a bottoming tap to do that. So then let me show you the back view here of this ram. Right there's how it's going to be. All it needs is welded up right now. So when I weld it up, I'll weld them holes shut. And then we'll just kind of chamfer all these corners, make it look nicer. I got my new gauge on it. It's just on there temporarily because I got to clean all that up and paint it. I got to clean that rod up, paint it, clean all this up. We're going to go with red on the valve. We're going to go with red on the cylinder. And I think we're going to go red on the head. Haven't decided on that one yet. May go black on the head, I don't know. And red on the wedge. Doesn't really matter what you put on the wedge. It'll be off of it in no time. When you start splitting. So the plan of attack on the cylinder is, I went and got the damn hoses for it, and I was very disappointed at the way they acted. They weren't very nice people, and they was trying to get as much money out of me as they could possibly get without any regards to my life and what I have to go through in life. But that's another story that I'm not telling. Since these threads here are messed up like they are, I'm just going to leave that the way it is. And we're turning a piece of metal, and it's chattering really bad on this side, so we're going to have to leave it like that. I can't get it no smoother. I've tried to take the smallest cuts as I can, and I should have did the live center on this before I let this hole get too big. Now it's got a lot of chatter, so I don't know why I'm getting a lot of chatter. But right now I'm boring this hole out right here to go over the threaded part on the cylinder pin. And right now I've got to get it to size, and then once I get it to size, then I got to go in and take that drill bit slant out of it and flatten the bottom of the hole. That's going to be a little tricky. So right now I'm just waiting for it to cool down. It's still got some more cooling to do. So basically what I'm going to do, this side is the cylinder side, and it's going to go on, and this edge or this shoulder is going to rest on the shoulders of the pin itself. Then once I've got it pressed up against it to where it's pressing against the pin, then I can take and drill. Well, I'll drill before I do it, straight across the center of it. I'll have a hole on both sides. So then I'll put it on the pin and clamp it up against it so it stays tight against the cylinder shoulder, and then I will take my drill bit and drill probably about that far into the shaft where the threads are, at least down to where I'm just below the thread bottom. So that way when I thread this for my set screws, I'll have a little pocket in the pin to run the set screw down through it on both sides. Because the set screws and the threads, the original threads, was only to keep it from backing off when you go into reverse. So it's not really doing anything. You're not relying on no bolts, you're relying on that shoulder. So then once I get this made, I'll put it in the mill, and then we'll mill some flats on it on each side, across from each other. Then we'll take and use Where'd I put that? I haven't decided of whether I want to use 1/2 inch or this, which is 7/8. I don't really believe that it's necessary to have something that heavy, because I've watched some of the videos on the newer wood splitters and they have 1/2 inch, and I'm thinking that 1/2 inch ought to be good enough to do that with. And then I'll have this bolt to the clevis that I make. So then I'll bore it out in the mill, both of them, like that. And if bolting proves to not work, because this half up here, up to about right here, will have a shoulder. So when I cut that flat right there, then that creates a shoulder for this piece here that's going to be probably about up to right here. So imagine this is your pinhole. So maybe a little less. And then any pressing that you do when you split a log, the pressure is going to be against that shoulder. And then this shoulder is going to be up against the other shoulder. So as long as you have shoulders holding the strength, you ain't got to rely on the bolts. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. And I think it's going to work out just fine. So right now I'm working with this boring bar that my buddy Dale made for me, which proves to be the best boring bar I've ever had. Out of all these boring bars right there, all them boring bars, and the homemade one proves to be better. But I'm going to have to use one of these other boring bars, because this one's got a back rake that way, and I need to, well, it might work. It's kind of square. It actually needs more of a back rake, you know, or clearance, but I could probably tilt this just enough to make it go in there. But this is the one I'm going to use because it's cutting better. It's starting to throw sparks, so we'll see. But that's the plans for the wood splitter as to what we're going to do. We'll probably do in the next video the welding of the ram and making that clevis. We might start with the clevis, and then I guess welding will be pretty much the last thing. And I hope to God I'll make a good looking weld, because I can't stand to look at ugly welds. And I'm out of practice, and welding is an art. If you don't stay in practice, you're going to lose it. Like my neighbor, the 80-year-old woman, she says, use it or lose it. So, but that's where we're at. Kind of taking it slow now, because I've got a couple doctor's appointments coming up. So I'm just trying to keep on the down low with the work, plus working on a depression right now. But I think this is going to be a nice looking splitter. I think it's going to work great. I've got all new hoses. I had 2 of them shortened, and I'm not going to put a filter on it. I just feel like that it's unnecessary for the cost that it costs to get one. I'm not paying no $200 to get a filter, 2 fittings, and a housing. The housing alone is I think he said $127 at Napa. And then you got to buy the fittings to go in it that accept your hose. So I'm not spending that much on a filter. It didn't have one on it when I got it, and it ain't going to have one on it. Now later on down the road, I might add one to it. That would be no problem because I've got extra hoses where I had them cut them, and I just had them put an end on both of them in case I ever need to use them for like a jumper or something. So, but we got wheels coming for it. We got new hubs coming for it. We're going with a 5 lug simply because, let me show you. Right there is what they had on it for lug studs. No way to center those wheels. There's no taper on that to center the wheel. And all 4 of them are like that. So they're sitting there wallering around in all the holes in them wheels, and they wallered the holes out. So I just decided I'm just going to change it to a 5 lug pattern, and let's hope that it fits my spindles. Now, I think they're all pretty universal, but we'll find out the hard way. I hope I don't have to make spindles. But anyway, that's what we've got so far. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. And by all means, don't forget to have your truck coffee. You guys have a good one. Later.